Tim T.C. Collins. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Othello Meadows. He's a man I respect highly. He works for a company. He's the executive director for Blue Meridian Partners, and they specialize in social and economic development for families, correct?
Yes, I'm actually the managing director, and,
yes.
And we focus on developing solutions for economic mobility for families. Okay.
Awesome, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more in detail about your role and how you progressed into that position?
Yeah, it's a kind of a long, winding tale. I'll try and be brief with it, but I'm a lawyer by trade, and so I got into that work, and I was living in Atlanta. I grew up here. I grew up actually over on Miami Street.
Wow.
And I was practicing law in Atlanta, and I felt like this isn't necessarily what I'm supposed to be doing, or it didn't feel like I was having the impact I wanted to have. And as much as I wanted to get away from Omaha, like, you know, you grow up here, you're ready to get away, you're ready to do something else. I just kept feeling this kind of pull back towards Omaha. One thing led to another. Phone call from a friend got me involved in some voter registration work. That led to some workforce development work, so helping people, you know, kind of find careers and things that are family sustaining. And then that led to a conversation that created 75 North, right? And so did that
75 North.
Yeah, so did that for 10 years, and then
which you were the CEO of that organization.
Yeah,
for 10 years.
Yeah, so did that for 10 years, and then one of my mentors, she told me about this job with Blue Meridian that was basically trying to do what I was doing at 75 North, but at a much larger scale, kind of nationally. So, so actually today, I think, is my 3-year anniversary with Blue Meridian. So, yeah.
Hey, so congratulations, brother.
It's flown by, man. It's flown by.
What type of skill sets does a leader need to develop in preparation for that type of role or position? CEO, that's a big deal. You know, you have to be really good at not just managing people. I believe there's a difference between management and leadership.
Yeah. I think playing sports like helps because you understand
how to compete, how to get the job done.
And then also, like, if you're the CEO, if you're a leader of an organization, you know, the best leaders I've seen have been the leaders that understood how to get the best out of people within those organizations, right? So not via the way they want to do it, but based on what that person needs, right? So I know, like, if you had a teammate and you know that if you yell at him, he's going to go in a shell and he's not going to be any good the rest of the game. So you need to encourage him. You be like, come on, man, you can get it done. You can do that. You can do better than that, right? Versus that guy on your team who's, when he's not playing well, you might need to get on him because that gets him going. So in a professional, setting, you have to understand those relationships and those dynamics as well, right? How do I get, the ultimate goal is to get here. The ultimate goal is not for people to do things the way I want them to do it, right? And so that's a lesson that took me a while to learn, but I think leaning back on my experience in sports, it really helped me think about it like a team.
Wow. Can you talk even more about your experiences in sports? You were a high-level Division I athlete at East Carolina University. What was that process like, and who was the coach at the time?
So the coach, when I first went there, was a guy named Eddie Payne. Who unfortunately just passed away a couple years ago. Wonderful soul. Wonderful guy. And it's funny, he came to our house,
This is when you were in high school.
This is when I was in high school.
A senior in high school.
Yeah, but I went to prep and came to our house, and he was a country dude, and he connected with my parents just because of kind of his warmth and humility, right? So he was a great coach. So he was the coach my first year, then he took the job at Oregon State. And then a guy named Joe Dooley, who's an assistant at Kansas now, was my coach for my other 3 years. But so I grew up, like I said, I grew up here. I grew up playing on every court you can imagine around here, right? So at MLK and Fontenelle Park was like where I played most of the time.
Wow.
Anywhere around here, Holy Name, if you sneak in the gym there. So
it's a lost start.
Right.
See a lot of kids just getting out in the street, having fun, playing basketball, skidding their legs up on the pavement.
You learn how to be creative.
You learn how to be tough.
You learn how to be tough. And so anyway, man, I always knew I wanted to play ball. Like I just, it was a thing that I loved and lived and breathed. And I always worked at it. Like I was always bouncing the ball. I was always doing something.
That's the key. You were always working at it. And I believe that's the number one quality that a leader needs to have is developing the consistency. You can be great and talented, gifted, but if you're not able to consistently put in the work that's required to develop and go to that next level, you're never moving forward.
And if your team doesn't see you put in that work, if your team is not seeing the leader, you think about a guy like Michael Jordan, right? Or Kobe Bryant, best player.
Law of buy-in,
right? And also best player, hardest workers. Like they setting the standard that you have to work this hard. But I just I didn't look at it like working hard because I just loved it. So I did it all the time. And so then I went to Monroe for junior high. And
Monroe Middle School.
Probably
had an all-star team back then.
We had a decent
Who was on
team.
that team?
So Dwight Lewis.
Some notables from the Omaha area that went on and played high-level ball like you did.
So on that team, we had Cedric Cooper. He went and played football at Montana State. Dwight Lewis, who was a monster, and then Joe Harris, whose daughter is actually a really great basketball player. I think she's a Xavier. So we had a good crew, man. We couldn't. I think we went like 6-3 or something like that, and we should have won more. But I was a late developer. I wasn't like
late bloom,
I wasn't like the. I wasn't like the guy that led the team in scoring and all that, because I grew late, and so I just stayed with it. I just loved it. So then I went to prep.
Wow.
And I grew, I think I grew from like 5'10" to 6'3".
That makes a big difference, those 4 inches.
Yeah.
When you already have some natural athleticism and you add some height to it, and just your knowledge that you're gaining over those years, and you put that together in a package, and you have this awesome athlete who just taking the game to a whole new level.
And it makes a big difference when, and then the other piece, speaking of like leadership, when my first years at prep, I played for my freshman year, I played for a guy named Scott Hawk, who
this is at Creighton Prep.
At Creighton Prep. It was like just
Scott Hawk. Okay.
Just a phenomenal coach, man, and a phenomenal man. And
would you say he was the most impactful coach that you ever played for?
Oh, 100%. Because the coach at prep on varsity was a guy named Brother Wilmot, who just passed away a few years ago, and a guy who taught me a lot about manhood, and a tremendous man. Wasn't quite the basketball coach maybe that I needed at that time, right? And through a series of events, my senior year, Scott Hawk, who is also an alum of prep, became the varsity coach. And so you think about this, right? You take a team, that team had 7 Division I athletes on it.
Wow.
And we won 13 games my junior year. We weren't very good. The coach changes, leadership changes.
What's the difference? Because you have all this talent. Look at it. It makes sense for your team to win more than 13. So
well, we got lucky. We got into the state tournament because we got lucky and won the district tournament.
I see. Yeah.
But then you think about, this is a great question, like what's the difference? The difference is, Coach Hawk was a person, or is a person that that drives you to believe in yourself at a really high level, right? And you believe that he believes in you, right?
There's that ambition that he instilled into you and your teammates early on.
Yeah, to say, listen, man, I don't care about, like if you make a mistake because you're not trying hard, like I care about that. But if you make a mistake because you tried something or something didn't work, I don't care about that. I want you to play free. I want you to be confident. And that next year we were 24-3, we were nationally ranked, state champions.
Wow.
So it was like, that was one of the first examples I had of like the difference that leadership makes. And what a difference somebody that can instill confidence in a group of people.
Wow.
What you can get done that way. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. So, today is my 39th birthday. Thank the Lord.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Happy birthday, man.
I appreciate it, Othello. And the good Lord, he's continuing to teach me very important concepts on life.
Yeah.
And how to make the most out of my time, how to maximize every moment in my life.
Yeah.
With my personal relationship with him, my relationship with my wife, kids, community. Can you talk about the importance of taking advantage of every opportunity that God gives you in this season in your life?
Yeah, I think that we're all connected by lots of sort of similar beliefs, right? Like, I'm not a Christian.
Yeah.
And sort of my belief is guided by this sense that, my ancestors are, that's the force that sustains me, right?
Sir.
And they're the folks that came before us and laid the groundwork for what we're able to now kind of accomplish. And so I think about it a lot, like, we live in a time where there's so much opportunity. We live in a time where, my great-grandfather or great-grandmother would have, who knows what they would have done had the opportunities that I have, right? And so it feels wasteful, right? Not to go at the day, not to go at life sort of as hard as you can every day. And, so there's that piece of it. And then as far as I know,
go at life as hard as you can.
Yeah.
It's like if God charged your battery up today, at the end, it should be empty.
Yeah,
how do we empty that tank?
Right. And I think, when I think about, as far as I know, we get one shot at it, right? And then other things into the equation, like you get married, you have kids, you have a community that you don't want to let down or that you want to build up and support. And I just think about, I talk to my South 2 boys, they're 10 and 12, and I talk to them all the time about, you can't get time back. Like when it goes, that day that you didn't do anything to sharpen your mind.
It's a currency.
Yeah.
It's the most important commodity that every human being has in their life.
Yeah.
It's your time. So we have to be, and this is a message that I'm always communicating to some of the young people God has called me to serve.
Yeah.
If you are going to spend your time, make sure it's done wisely with people who want you to succeed.
Yeah.
Stop hanging around like the chickens and the ducks who are standing on the floor. They're not going anywhere. You associate yourself with people who are going up, people who are climbing the mountain of success.
And it's funny.
But how do we instill that into the kids with all these different distractions, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, which can be awesome tools to help us succeed. However, if not used correctly, it can deter us from our destiny.
I talk to my boys about everything being, I don't think anything is inherently good or bad, right? Everything is, right? And so Instagram is, and how you engage with Instagram is good or bad, right? So, we live in an era where there's more access to information than there ever has been at any time in human history, right? There's also less value for wisdom and learning, right?
Why is that?
Well, it's like when you're young, what is it?
Wisdom takes work, because I think, what is it? Carl Jung said, it's, easy to judge, but hard to think.
Yeah.
Is that why?
I think it's easy to go online and go to Google, right? Or go to Wikipedia and Google something, right? And then think that you understand it, right? And, my wife teaches at, she's a professor at Metro, and she teaches the U.S. Constitution and political science.
Wow.
And so,
power couple.
Yeah, so you sit there and you're and she'll have these conversations with a student who was a year out of high school, if that, who was just in high school last fall, who was taking introductory courses at Metro, doing what they're supposed to do, right? But somehow that person, because of the availability of information, feels like they're peers. Like, you know, my wife went to an Ivy League law school, right? And you
both have a law background.
Right. Well, she's way smarter than me, but the student will sit there and interact with her as if they're peers, as if she didn't spend years and years and years getting good at something, right? And the student just showed up. It's their first time in this class. And like that to me is like kind of in a nutshell where this gap is. Because if you want to be good at something, right? If you want to really understand something, that's not going to happen off of 20 minutes on Google.
No way.
Right? It's going to be the application of that information to a problem. I've applied that information that I just got to this problem.
Acquisition and application.
And now I'm going to learn and see what happens. Okay. That didn't go the way I thought it would. Right. So now I've learned something. Right. And I see a lot of kids who aren't comfortable with that. And there's such a premium on.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, there's such a premium on being right, right? There's, you know, and I tell my boys all the time, I'm like, listen, you need to be more invested in getting it right than being right. Because if you're really invested in being right, right, that deters you from actually understanding and deepening your knowledge of a particular subject. But there's a lot of that, right? And I tell my boys, I'm like, it is a tremendous advantage for you. Right? If you learn how to go about it the opposite way from that. Right? Because people are going to be looking for people who are genuinely able to think critically, right? To create solutions, to solve problems.
Wow.
And if your answer to solving problems is I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to read the headline of the first 2 articles that come up and then I'm going to act like I know what I'm talking about. It's going to be tough for you, you know?
Wow, amazing. I'm curious to find out what your perspective is on the relationship between purpose and adversity. And what sparked this thought, my daughter and I went to watch Flash, a big Marvel DC fan. But in this movie, you know, not to necessarily spoil it for everyone, Flash goes back in time and he connects with the older Batman. Now this is in a timeline where there is no crime in Gotham. So Batman was depressed because he didn't have nothing to do. So I'm thinking in my head, is having crime, Joker, and these crazy people wreaking havoc on the city something that he needs to exist? And how does that correlate with our existence? Do we need a villain? Do we need adversity to get better?
You know, it's interesting, man, because I think about this all the time. I think that, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, but when people of our kind of generation, if you've made a better life for yourself than you had before, and you have kids, now you're thinking, I talk to my friends about this all the time. Like, how do I give my kids, or how do I help my kids build the skills necessary to deal with tough things? So for me, I learned it in a different way. Like, I learned it because in this neighborhood's always been tough, right?
Like, you were born into it. And most kids today aren't born into it. But you think about this, the generation before us was like the civil rights movement. So like they couldn't even go down the street, go to the grocery store without their life being at risk.
Right.
So then you have a kid, having them go play in the park, you know, spend, you know, hours outside having fun riding their bikes. That's not a big deal. But I know my wife and I, we're a little different. We don't have our kids out in the street and the way we were. Probably should.
You get nervous. I get it.
It's a different time because we're thinking about our past experience. Oh, I don't want that to happen to my son or my daughter. Well, so I guess we need balance there.
But then you think about your question about purpose versus adversity, and I think a lot about the purpose that actual adversity serves for us. So for me, this neighborhood was not, when I was growing up, it was not a neighborhood where anybody was going to shoot you, right? Unless you were like really in that life, right? But it was a neighborhood where at some point you're going to have to scrap and stand up for yourself.
Right. Like that's where you see the Bud Crawfords.
And you
there's a healthy way to go about that too.
There is. But I don't want my kids to be anywhere where they got to fight, right? Despite the fact that built
not physical fight, right?
But despite the fact that I'm really thankful for what those experiences built in me, right? So
it calloused your mind and your body.
And then, you know, adversity is a thing that I think my family has dealt with a lot of adversity, just a lot of personal tragedy. And the upside of that, or the silver lining in that, is it prepares you to enter the world with a different perspective, right? And so I'm thankful for the time I have with family. I'm thankful for the time that my mother is healthy, right? I'm thankful that she's still strong, right? Because I have lived a life where those things weren't always the case, right? And so adversity also can be a gift, right? It can be a gift because it sharpens your perspective about what you're capable of and also what's important.
Wow. And you all can see he's clearly physical specimen. Tell us about your health routine. What are you doing to stay healthy nutritionally and with your training regimen?
Listen, like I've always been physically active. Like I always, you know, for me, the big struggle is eating, right? Like I've also really always loved to eat, right? And so, but when I was younger, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. I was always really skinny. Like if you look at my boys now, they're carbon copies of who I was. They're lanky and skinny, long arms, all knees and elbows. And it wasn't until I got to college when I started lifting weights. And even then I couldn't gain weight, but I could get strong. And I like that feeling. I like being able to push myself and to challenge myself in other ways. And then the day I stopped playing basketball, so after I finished in East Carolina, I kicked around in a bunch of these little minor leagues, just trying to keep playing. But the day I stopped playing basketball, man, all the weight I could never gain, all of a sudden decided to show up. Right? Because I'm not, you know, I'm not practicing 3 hours a day. I'm not
changing activity.
And, but I always wanted to be somebody that was like strong and in shape and, you know, felt capable. Right. And I honestly think you have an obligation to take care of yourself, to take care of your body. I think you got an obligation to your partner, right? I think you have an obligation to your
wife, your kids, your community.
My boys are up here all the time. We're up here all the time working out. And I'm like, man, I got to be able to at least keep up with them a little bit, right? To you know, to play my part. So it's just been a part of my life since I've always been somebody that had a hard time sitting still. And I've always been somebody that liked being physically active. So now I lift weights every day and I do some cardio stuff to keep my heart together. But I feel it's also a mental thing. When I come
100%.
I put my headphones in, man, and I don't have to talk to anybody, and I can kind of get in my own space. And it's interesting, you talk about like work stuff and it relates back to leadership. Like my best ideas come when I'm doing something that has nothing to do with my job.
When you're in silence.
Yeah.
You all need that.
And I'm in the moment. I'm
in
the
leader.
Moment. Yeah. But being in the moment of this set, put the weight down, take a step away from it, my mind is like open at that point. And then something will happen. And like I find that the gym, stuff like that gets my mind to that place where it's open to receiving new things. And so it's a big ritual for me, man. I got to work out. If I don't work out, I don't feel right.
So what's your perspective on achieving results through your fitness routine? I personally believe that exercise, it should be fun and it should be sustainable for the individual. However, there's principles that need to be there.
Yeah.
that if they don't exist, regardless of what your goal is in terms of producing your fitness, these principles need to exist. The frequency, the intensity, the time, type. What are some of your words of wisdom for someone, maybe heading on that path who's trying to get started? Yeah, we got the kids. Yeah, they're good. Oh, they're good. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're good. Yeah. Yeah, we got some guests here today, guys. But what's your perspective?
So I think, I like to, I like to push myself. I like to figure out, okay, what did I do last time? Right? Can I exceed that? Can I do more than that? Can I do that faster? Can I take less rest? So that I'm always sort of pushing myself. I'm always sort of pushing myself past where I was the last time. Right. And so that's something that is sort of always with me. Is like this sense of, okay, what did I do last time? Can I beat that? Can I do more than that? And that's also a struggle sometimes. Sometimes you come to the gym and you're just like, man, let me just get this in, let me do whatever. Right. Versus like, okay, let me be focused and have a plan for what I'm trying to get done today. And that's a little bit harder thing to figure out, right? And you got to be really intentional about it. So, and I
love what you said, intention.
Yeah.
Everything that requires your best effort, it is a process of being intentional. Yeah. With nutrition, that you think about like your mind and your body connection. It all starts with what you put in your body. 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Yeah. And big percentage of people, they go to McDonald's, you have a routine of going to Burger King or eating, Doritos. These are foods that have very low nutritional value. And if your goal is to build your body physically, these are foods, they're counterproductive.
100%.
So we have to get into a routine where maybe you don't necessarily focus on being perfect right away, but you need to start somewhere. What are a couple things that you can do right now to get more fresh food into your body so your body profits from the food?
Even if I eat something that is not like quote unquote healthy, right?
Yeah, right.
So I love cheeseburgers, right?
Yeah, cheeseburger. I can go for a cheeseburger right now.
Right. What I'll do is I'll try and make sure it's from a place where they're going to use high quality beef and they're going to use fresh ingredients versus a McDonald's, right? Because it's like, okay, if I'm gonna,
where it's processed.
Yeah, if I'm gonna OD on this cheeseburger, at least I want it to be with
OD on the cheeseburger,
like with good, quality ingredients, and I find that also my body uses that food better and processes it better, and I feel better, But eating is my big challenge, man, because I love, like my wife and I love to try the restaurants and that kind of stuff. And all the stuff that tastes best is salty and sweet and fatty.
Sweet, buttery, fatty. Yeah, it's all about maintaining a balance. Yeah. Well, before we conclude this amazing podcast, I have a couple more questions.
Sure, man.
And I appreciate you for being here. This is some great content, information, wisdom that you're providing us with. Can you give us some insight on preparation? I'm reading the book, John Maxwell, 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And he's teaching me how important it is to prepare. One of the primary reasons why we get so fearful and anxious about tomorrow or the next day is because we're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So how do you get ready? How do you start your day? How do you get ready for challenges that you know about? And on another side of that, how do you prepare for challenges that you don't even see coming? Like we all experienced that with the COVID-19.
So ironically, I'm much better with things that I don't see coming. Like I just think my life things have happened in my life that I didn't see coming, that were hard, that were terrible.
Man.
And you live through them and you're like, okay, that's not the end of the world. It didn't kill me. It's like whatever. The preparation thing. So like my day starts I get up about 4:30.
Oh, wow.
And then usually what I do is I go downstairs.
You have a routine.
Yeah. And like I do the same thing every day, every morning. At least in the morning. The afternoon gets a little bit whatever, but the morning I'm going to get up at 4:30. I'm going to go downstairs. And me and my dog, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. And me and my dog going to sit on the porch, right? And I try to do something like
that stimulates your mind.
Exactly, like to warm my brain up. And then also, like always, I'm a big believer in like lifelong learning. I took a lot of Spanish in college and worked in a place where I had to use Spanish a lot. And then I found that I didn't retain it as well. So every morning I get up and I go on Duolingo and I do a couple lessons every morning, like without fail. And it gets me going. It's better than just jumping right into my email or my work, right? So it gets me going kind of that way. I kind of move around a little bit, stretch a little bit, just kind of trying to get into the day. And I like the quiet of the morning. So on my street, like it's quiet. So it's me and my dog sitting out there, and then I pull out my laptop, right? And I go through a list of things that I said I was going to try and do today, because I'll do that list like the night before. Then I look at that list and I say, okay, what can I get done right now? The reason I do that is the summer is a little different, but during the winter and fall, what I try and do is I get up that early so that I can get, an hour and a half, 2 hours of work in. My boys get up at like 6:45, and then I cook them breakfast in the morning before they go to school.
All this done. A lot.
By getting up early.
Yeah.
By getting up early. And then I feel like I gotta, and then I don't feel bad about after they have breakfast, then I usually go to the gym after that. So then I don't feel bad about that, because I got 2.5 hours of work under my belt already. And I spent time with my boys before and my wife before everybody goes and does their thing. So like that started maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And that's been a good, that's been a good routine for me. Because it gets me off to a good start where I know, it's like, how people talk about making your bed every day. I don't do that, but it's like how people want to start with a win. And if I get
simple victory, making your bed early in the morning.
Right. So if I get up in the morning,
I'm a firm believer, because that's what my dad instilled into me because my dad's a military man. He would turn those lights on, kick the blankets off. Boys, get up, make your bed. And then my aunt Jean, who is my grandmother's baby sister, and my grandmother, she's not alive anymore, but I had called her, it was sometime last year, because I wanted to know more about what life was like for them growing up. They grew up in Nowata, Oklahoma, on a farm. There was a lot of
bad stuff.
Racism and stuff. And she said that my great-grandfather used to make them get up and do chores on the farm before they could even eat breakfast. Before they went to school, before they ate breakfast, you had to have X, Y, and Z done. I thought that was just a great principle. Maybe I need to start applying that lesson to my kids to some degree.
I think it's such an important thing, right? Where, if you wake up in the morning and you get something done early, it really sets a great tone for you for the rest of the day. And, I get that some people are morning people, and so they might need a different routine to feel the same way. But
and that's a leadership. That's a good quality to have as a leader, to understand.
Somebody might not be
tendencies.
They might not be so good in the morning, but if you catch them at 3 o'clock, they're fantastic. Right? But that's my routine, and it keeps me off to a good start most days.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What do you see in the community, or in the world for that matter, that needs to get done? Like what are, as leaders in the community, what can we all do collectively, men, women, everyone who's in a leadership position? What are you seeing as one of the executives of your organization, someone who's active every day and sees a plethora of challenges just outside of these doors? What needs to get done? Maybe what's one thing that needs to get done now that will make a significant difference in how we all connect with each other? Positive connection.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing that, my father, I lost my father in 2001, and probably still to this day, the biggest influence on my life, right? And he lived through a series of really unfortunate adversities that I watched as a kid. And he taught me a really important lesson about the way you relate to adversity and the way you relate to the world, right? And I asked him one day, because my father was legally blind for most of my life and then almost completely blind towards the end of his life. And my father had been a tremendous athlete, had been successful in business, had all these things going from when his health failed him, and he
couldn't physically see, walk by faith, not by sight,
and he lost, so much of what made him who he was. And the thing that I always ask him, I said, "Does it bother you that you can't see anymore? Does it bother you that you can't do the things that you used to do? Does it bother you that the stuff that you used to be so good at is like now out of your reach, And he taught me a really important lesson, which was, all I have time to do really is worry about the things that I can control, right?
So amazing.
And and he said, I can't control that I've lost my eyesight. I can't control that my health is failing me. He said, but what I can control is the type of father I am, the type of husband I am, the type of friend I am, right? He's like, I can control those things.
Still give people your best. Wake up every day with gratitude. Count your blessings instead of counting your problems. Everybody got problems. You might think my pastor says this all the time, Bishop Barlow, you might have problems up to here. Someone got problems up to here.
All the time.
So we need to be grateful for the fact, like, my 39th birthday. Thank you, Lord, that I get to see this moment. My younger brother, Harley, he passed away at 14.
Oh, wow.
The day right after his birthday, he passed away.
Oh, man.
So, and still to this day, I have a hard time comprehending that, but I put it in God's hands, and he's telling me every day, the people in your life right now, they're only going to be there for a short period of time. So relish every moment that you get with people. Just stay blessed and focus on what you do have and maximize your minutes with them. And I remember all the good moments that we had. And I'm at a point in my life right now where I came to terms with that principle that God has taught me. He was here. I enjoyed him. I loved him. I maxed out my time with my younger brother, Harley. So I'm not going to feel upset, disappointed that God took him away, because he was only supposed to be here for 14 years. He doesn't belong to me.
That's wild, man. I lost my sister when I was 14. My sister was 19 and I was 14. But when you think about something that could change things, right? I typically think in smaller bites, right? I think about what makes this neighborhood better, what makes North Omaha better. I think about it like that. And I think, there are things and there are forces in this world that are without doubt, designed and aimed at the suppression of other people, right? There's no question about that. And what I've tried to do is figure out, what are the things that I control? What are the things
in your control that would make a difference for other people?
Right. And I think that, one of the things I think about is, you think about a contribution to a better society or to make us connect better. I think about one thing I can do is I can raise really thoughtful, strong young men, right? That's a contribution to the world, right? If I raise little jerks who are self-centered, who are
hedonistic, just thinking about themselves,
maybe that's like a subtraction, right? Maybe I'm taking more than I'm giving. So if I think about what the world needs or what communities need, I think about my responsibility as a father, right? I think about, that's a contribution I can make to society, is to build strong young men.
If you do that one thing alone, is just you love your kids, you love your wife, love your kids, love other people's kids, love the person down the street, man, that thing right there will make a big difference in this world.
Yeah.
Just love people. And then you also need to love yourself, because if you empty inside, there's no way you're going to have any energy for other people. So you got to make sure you're filling your own cup up.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
No question. And that's super important, man.
So one last question.
Sure.
One last question. What's your message to the universe? Not just to the world. Just what's your message to the universe? How does Othello Meadows get remembered?
Oh, man.
What is Othello Meadows known for, and how does he get remembered in terms of his impact on this universe?
You know, that's a great question, man. Nobody's ever asked me that. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is when I'm not here anymore. There's two things. One is I really want my family to remember me as the point at which our legacy, our history shifted, right? And so, like, from him on, everything was better. Everything was right. And obviously, I had a tremendous foundation with my father, right? But if I think about years after I'm gone, I want people to be like, man, great grandpa O, he was. That's where it started, right? So I think about that. You know, I think about it in really simple terms. I want my boys to speak about me the way I speak about my father. You know, like if that happens, then I'm good, right? If they speak about me the way I think about my father, like then I think I will have done well.
That's so amazing, Mr. Othello. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. The wisdom that you provided us with today is just invaluable. So everyone, let's thank Mr. Othello for being here with us today. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and share this information with someone else that God has called you to serve. We love you all. Until the next time. Flex those muscles. Let's see those muscles. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, he's got the big muscles. Yeah, they're bigger than mine. But we love you all, and we'll see you next time.